you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Our verse this morning is Antya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 4, text 71. Dharmaje Sarvashreshta Nama Sankirtana Niraparadhe Namalaile Paya Premadhana Tara Madhye. Of the 9 different types of devotional service, Sarva Shrestha, the most important of all, Nama Sankirtana, chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Niraparadhe, without offenses, Nama Laile, if one chants the holy name, Paya, he gets, Premadhana, the most valuable ecstatic love of Krishna. Translation: of the 9 processes of devotional service, the most important is to always chant the holy name of the Lord. If one does so, avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses, one very easily obtains the most valuable love of Godhead. So before I read the purport, I'd like to go back and discuss the context. This is chapter 4, Sanatana Goswami visits the Lord, title of the chapter. After being instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Shashvamedha Ghat in Prayag, Sanatana Goswami took up residence in Vrindavan. And he also indicated, from time to time, you can come to see me in Puri. Lord Chaitanya went to Puri, Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan and made that his residence. And after some time, Sanatana Goswami made a pilgrimage, specifically following as best as he could the exact path that Lord Chaitanya traveled, passing through Jharkhand forest and then down. He did some research, and so in Jharkhand forest, it's not so densely inhabited. It's a forest, and here and there, within the forest, there were residents. There were forest dwellers, nishadas, it's sometimes used, like Aborigines. But they had their little enclave of people that lived together, and then he would stop at those places, hear from them, what did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do, what did he say, just absorbed in hearing about his beloved master, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as circumstance arranged by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's internal potency, it's disclosed later by Haridas, Sanatana Goswami contracted an illness. It's a very specific kind of illness, an illness that he drank some water that he shouldn't have, and his body became infected with sores on his body, on the skin. And Prabhupada describes there's wet itches and dry itches, and this was the wet kind, weeping sores. So this pus or some liquid that was yucky and smelly was coming from his body. And he was thinking, oh, this is terrible. Because he knew, from the very first that they encountered one another, when Sanatana Goswami had left the government service of Nawab Hussain Shah, Lord Chaitanya, omniscient, knew that he was outside the door, told his servant, go bring the sadhu inside. He went outside and said, there's no sadhu out there, there's a Muslim mendicant. So bring him in, and immediately Lord Chaitanya embraced him. Lord Chaitanya was very fond of Sanatana Goswami, and he was fond of embracing Sanatana Goswami. So Lord Sanatana knew that's what's going to happen when I get to Puri. Lord Chaitanya is going to want to embrace me, and I got this yucky stuff all over my body. So then he began to contemplate. He didn't tell anybody, he just contemplated, I should give up this body. It's just going to offend Lord Chaitanya. And so he made a plan that he didn't disclose to anybody, but Lord Chaitanya, being omniscient, knew. His plan was he would go to Puri, he would see Lord Chaitanya. In time for the Rath Yatra, he would throw his body before the wheel of Jagannath, the Rath Yatra cart, and give up his body. And so that was his plan, unspoken plan, that he didn't disclose to anybody. And Sanatana Goswami was staying same place as Haridas Thakur. And each morning Lord Chaitanya would come to see Haridas, and of course Sanatana also. And then one particular morning, unprovoked by any conversation or anything, Lord Chaitanya slammed him. He chastised him very strongly. And I'm going to read that section. It goes back to text 55 of this chapter. My dear Sanatan, Lord Chaitanya said, if I can attain Krishna by committing suicide, I would certainly give up millions of bodies without a moment's hesitation. You should know that one cannot attain Krishna simply by giving up the body. Krishna is attainable by devotional service. There is no other means for attaining him. Acts such as suicide are influenced by the mode of ignorance. And in ignorance and passion, one cannot understand who Krishna is. Unless one discharges devotional service, one cannot awaken one's dormant love for Krishna. And there is no means to attain him other than awakening that dormant love. So now the verse that we're reading is how to awaken that dormant love. Measures like suicide are causes for sin. A devotee never achieves shelter at Krishna's lotus feet by such actions. Then he moves to the transcendental place. Because of feelings of separation from Krishna, an exalted devotee sometimes wants to give up his life, but by such ecstatic love, however, one attains the audience of Krishna, and at that time he cannot give up his body. One who is deeply in love with Krishna cannot tolerate separation from the Lord. Therefore, such a devotee always desires his own death. And he quotes Rukmini speaking like this. The circumstance is Rukmini had heard about Krishna, the daughter of King Bhishmaka, resided some distance from Dwarka, but she heard about Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, she, unlike us, she developed intense love for Krishna. And then she got this bad news that her brother, Rukmi, she is Rukmini and his brother is Rukmi, he was envious towards Krishna. And although her father wanted, Bhishmaka, wanted her to marry Krishna, the elder brother didn't, the elder brother of Rukmini. So, poor father, he had this family conflict, and worst of all, Rukmini wanted his younger sister to marry Shishupal. No way. No way. But her father yielded to her elder brother. So she was in this quandary, poor girl. So she wrote a letter to Krishna. Please, she's describing beautiful, beautiful language. Her attraction for him, very, very direct, very, the shyness was gone. She was just very direct about her feelings. And then said, you may find this will be difficult, but here's a plan. She gave, she's a princess. She's a royal savvy. I'm under guard, but before the wedding, I'll go to the temple outside, and then I'll go from the palace to the temple, and on the way back from the temple, show up in your chariot and take me away. And if you don't do this, I'll just continue to perform austerities in this life to give up my body, and then even if it takes millions of lifetimes, still I'll not accept anyone but you as my husband. She's very fixed on Krishna. So the verse that's quoted, "O lotus-eyed one, great personalities like Lord Shiva desire to bathe in the dust of your lotus feet, to drive away ignorance. If I do not get the mercy of your lordship, I shall observe vows to reduce the duration of my life, and thus I shall give up bodies for hundreds of births if it is possible to get your mercy in that way." Very determined. And Lord Chaitanya goes on, "Give up all your nonsensical desires, for they are unfavorable for getting shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Engage yourself in chanting and hearing. Then you will soon achieve the shelter of Krishna without a doubt." And there's no qualification needed by birth. A person born in a low family, because he was considering not only his bodily condition, but he had been born in a Brahmin family, but had left that standard, at least at that time, to not accept service, what to speak of service in the Muslim king who was a bad guy. So he had become contaminated by that. So he was considering himself lowly because of that. A person born in a low family is not unfit for discharging devotional service to Krishna, nor is one fit for devotional service simply because he is born in an aristocratic family of Brahmanas. Anyone who takes to devotional service is exalted, whereas a non-devotee is always condemned and abominable. Therefore, in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord, there is no consideration of the status of one's family. Then he moves into connects that message with the next message. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always favorable to the humble and meek, but aristocrats, learned scholars, and the wealthy are always proud of their positions. We heard something yesterday evening about the obstacle of pride, and Mukunda got everybody fired up about understanding how we to see pride within us, because when you're proud, generally you don't see it because you're proud. What? I'm good. What do you mean? So the next verse, very often quoted verse, 7th canto. If one is born in a Brahmin family and highly qualified, he's unfit for delivering himself or his family. And then conversely, one must be a pure devotee of the Lord. And if someone is low-born, swapacha, or chandala, a dog eater, or something low-born, but he becomes a pure devotee, then he can deliver not only himself, but his whole family. So birth is not the qualification, devotion is the qualification. And the message prior to that is the humble and meek. Among the ways of executing devotional service, the 9 prescribed methods are the best, for these processes have great potency to deliver Krishna and ecstatic love for him. And then this verse in purport. So the one that's on the board here. Of the 9 processes of devotional service, the most important is to always chant the holy name of the Lord. If one does so, avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses, one very easily obtains the most valuable love of Godhead. He's giving us an alternative to Sanatana Goswami besides lamenting over his physical condition, abominable, pitiable, embarrassing physical condition. Here's the alternative: hearing and chanting, taking shelter in a humble and meek mood of the holy name. So yesterday, the theme I was intending to present was the power of bhakti, and this one is the power of humility and meekness as necessity for tivra bhakti, powerful bhakti. Nice purport. He starts, Prabhupada quotes, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu gives the following directions in his Bhakti Sandarbha 270, long Sanskrit text translated this way. Chanting the holy name is the chief means of attaining love of Godhead. This chanting or devotional service does not depend on any paraphernalia, nor on one's having taken birth in a good family. So big letters here. By humility and meekness, one attracts the attention of Krishna. This is the verdict of all the Vedas. Again, therefore, if one becomes very meek and humble, he can easily attain the lotus feet of Krishna in this age of Kali. Then the rest, it's a long prose. It's a statement from the Bhakti Sandarbha. All prose, not verse. That is the fulfillment of all great sacrifice, penances, and austerities, because when one achieves ecstatic love of Godhead, he attains the complete perfection of life. Therefore, whatever one does in executing devotional service must be accompanied with the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. He has a long section about, there's 9 processes, and all of the other 8 processes must be accompanied by chanting, or with chanting. Of course, starting with hearing, but the emphasis is upon chanting. Because before you chant, what are you going to chant? Something that you've heard. But the activity of hearing and chanting in a meek and humble mood. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare has been praised by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Namastaka. And so the rest of this, the purport is glorifications of the holy name, and they're all very beautiful. So this first one, it's the first of the 8 verses of Rupa Goswami, Namastaka, and it's very dear to the devotees. O Harinama, the tips of the toes of your lotus feet. The holy name has lotus feet. He has form. Are constantly being worshipped by the glowing radiance emanating from the string of gems known as the Upanishads, the crest jewels of all the Vedas. Within the Vedas, the Upanishads are revered. Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas. And the effulgence emanating from the jewel-like string of jewel-like Vedas are trying to touch the lotus feet of the holy name. That's like very poetically, beautifully expressed. That's the objective. That's what the Upanishads themselves worship, the effulgent Upanishads. You are eternally adored by liberated souls, such as Narada and Shukadeva. It's a nice way of saying the holy name is liberated, because liberated souls adore the holy name, so the holy name is liberated. Purnashuddho Nitya Mukto, just a poetic expression of that. I take complete shelter of you. And then a reference to Sanatana Goswami, taken from Brihat Bhagavatamrita, chapter 1, verse 9. So it's the very early stages where Sanatana Goswami is similarly revering the holy name. All glories to the all blissful holy name of Sri Krishna, which causes the devotee to give up all conventional religious duties, meditation, and worship, when somehow or other uttered even once by a living entity, the holy name awards him liberation. The holy name of Krishna is the highest nectar. It is my life and my only treasure. Two more. This is from Shukadeva Goswami, one of the referenced liberated souls that revere the holy name. The verse is Etan Nirvidyamananam Ichatam Akatobayam, that verse. O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from all material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. It's good for everybody. You want material enjoyment? Chant Hare Krishna. You want perfection of life? Chant Hare Krishna. You want to be with Krishna? Chant Hare Krishna. And then the Shikshastakam 3 is the final one. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw and the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Final is anyone interested in the 10 offenses it's spoken of earlier, Adi Lila, chapter 8, verse 24. The chanting should be performed guarding against the 10 offenses. So this is one of those verses in Scripture. You could speak in different ways about certain verses in Scripture, hundreds of different ways, and not repeat yourself. It's a very, very rich and wonderful. But the topic that I'd like to speak about this morning is the power of humility, emphasized specifically by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. Now Sanatana Goswami was certainly feeling humble, because he didn't want to offend Lord Chaitanya, and he was ready to give up the dearmost thing to the living entity, the body, because his body was offensive, as Lord Chaitanya would want to embrace him. To smear that yucky stuff in the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, unthinkable. So give up the body. That was his contemplation. Certainly he was humble, but that humility, he wanted him to connect with devotional service. Devotional service, in practical terms, means senses, sense objects, connect with one another in the mood of trying to please Krishna by that effort in ways that are prescribed according to our teachings, our scriptures. That's bhakti. Now, to elevate oneself in bhakti, we discussed this yesterday. There's obstacles, and the bhakti itself can eliminate those obstacles, but what's going to keep us on track with bhakti? Or how does it begin? It begins with association of devotees, bhaktas, they're carrying bhakti, but then there has to be some, at a certain point at least, a willingness to accept that gift that the bhaktas are giving. So, humility is an essential element, beginning, middle, and end, just like faith is an essential element, beginning, middle, and mature stages of bhakti. Humility, it also grows as faith grows naturally. In Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's description of the 9 stages of bhakti, in one place he says that they can be described as different stages of faith. Faith and 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 faith. 9. It starts with faith and it ends with the mature stage of that faith is prema. And there's an object in which one has faith, that's Krishna. There's different perspectives on who is Krishna and what does it mean to be connected to Krishna according to one's purification and elevation of consciousness. In this way also faith increases. But also humility. Those that are in the most advanced stages of bhakti, they have humility increases and increases. So I thought to just cover a few things to enhance this or expand on it. In mantras, like pranam mantras, like our pranam mantra for Srila Prabhupada, it begins Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. So it's nice to say it. It's even nicer to know what it means. And it's even nicer to enter into the mood of what it means. So just starting with that first word, Namaha. We discussed this over the Christmas holiday, but it's certainly valuable to hear important things again and again because they don't necessarily go in and they don't necessarily stick even. So in Padma Purana, there's this nice reference where Ma in Namaha, and think about it, well, I've been thinking about it, and like in our Gayatri mantras, there's this Namaha. It appears multiple times. And think further, there's Namaste, Narashingaya, it's just, the same root, the same. It's throughout our practice that we do perhaps mechanically or not mindfully. I learned this from because of visiting China, a little bit about Buddhism and the eightfold system of Buddha. Mindfulness is like very essential. So Krishna consciousness, mindfulness is also essential. Mindful, we meditate on the meaning and enter into the mood. So here's Namaha. Try it. When you say your Gayatri mantra, each time there's a Namaha, think of what Padma Purana says, what it means, and enter into the mood. Or when you say Prana mantra, or whenever you hear this word, it's powerful. It's very powerful. So, Ma represents ahankara, and Na represents negation of ahankara. This translation of some verses from Padma Purana. So Namaha. Na maha. No false ego. Well, if there's no false ego, what's left? It's who we really are. It's the real self is behind the false self. Thus, by uttering namaha, one negates one's independent attitude. The jiva is dependent. So that, there's the negative, then there's the positive. Namaha, I give up my independence. I'm dependent. With the prohibition comes the injunction. It's declaring our dependence. He lives with dependence. Therefore, one should completely reject the idea of accomplishing by one's own capacity. Interesting translation. Doesn't say accomplishing what, just accomplishing. Remember from yesterday evening, this animita nimitena. I like Sanskrit because you don't know what the words mean. So when you hear what the words mean, it's a whole new thing. You don't start with, a ground of misconception. You don't know anything. I like it. And so obviously there's a connection between animita and nimitena. That sounds similar. So nimitena, we know from Bhagavad Gita is, this is repeating from yesterday, but being an instrument. And animita means without the sense of being the doer. I'm not the cause. I'm not the cause of the result. I'm the instrument of the cause. So while doing, I'm not with false ego, thinking I'm causing the result. So same, namaha. It's tight, but it's full, packed in there. So I'm not independent, I'm dependent. And if I'm dependent, how can I cause something to happen? If something happens, it's dependent. My ability, my existence, the result is dependent. I have a role to play, serve Krishna role, but without false ego. Namaha. Nice. Just in that phrase, namaha. So just apply it. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, he who is at the padas of Vishnu. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, very dear to Krishna on this earth. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namane. He's known as Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaha. No false ego, and following the no false ego submission. Like, there's so many references, like Tadviti pranipatena, submission. It's similar to the whole discussion we had Christmas time about surrender, but submission. How can you submit if you're not humble? Well, you don't. You may go through some action that looks like, but it's not from the heart. So what we heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say to Sanatana Goswami is, Krishna sees that meekness and humility, and he awards that person who's meek and humble with his mercy. Now, supposing somebody is very qualified, how are they going to feel themselves meek and humble? Well, they recognize whatever that is, that's a qualification, that's Krishna's, and it's meant to be used in Krishna's service. It's not mine. But if you're the fruitive mentality, I cause the merit, the kriti. Now I'm entitled because I caused the kriti, this merit, to use it for enjoyment. Right? I created it. It's mine. The implication is it's for my enjoyment. It's it's like dominoes, 1, 2, 3. So how do you get at the root of the domino thing? give up false ego. Well, that's easy to say. It's the launching pad for bhakti, because if I strive, at least I'm aware this is a big obstacle for me. It gets in my way all the time. I mean, nonstop. I'm covered by false ego nonstop. So whatever I do, don't do. It's false ego. How do I go beyond that? I require mercy. There's a very nice verse of so many very nice verses from the Bhagavatam, where Lord Brahma speaks similar way as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking to Sanatana Goswami, just coming from a different position. He's describing the value of receiving even a small portion of mercy from Krishna. Atapite deva padambuja dvaya prasada leshanugrahita eva hi janati tattvam. So, Bhagavan mahim no. Specifically this word lesha means a trace, just a small trace. But even a small trace of mercy from Krishna enables one to realize Krishna. So the devotees, they can be, while being humble, they can desire even a lesha amount, and that the lesha amount of Krishna's mercy is like an ocean. So what to speak of the ocean? That's the residence of Vrindavan, there in the ocean. But even just a trace of Krishna's mercy, and that trace of Krishna's mercy comes into the life of one who's meek and humble. So the converse again, if one is not meek and humble, even you're inundated with something. Like, I've met a number of people. It's particularly, I've had it happen a number of times when I was taking some Ayurvedic treatment in Bombay. I would meet a number of people that said, "Oh, I met Swamiji." And I was thinking, why didn't you take shelter of him? It's like, their credentials. I met Srila Prabhupada. Remember this one man, Prabhupada gave him such mercy. He was describing how Prabhupada gave him such mercy. And now he's, wearing the credential, I met Prabhupada. This man, I was introduced before the man came. He collects cars, like, fashionable cars. He has a collection of something like 99 fashionable cars. He's a collector of whatever you call those special cars. So one can receive more than a trace of mercy and not understand how to properly use it, and instead become involved in something else. There's no loss. That the man just thinking of Prabhupada fondly as he was thinking of Prabhupada fondly, because of the kindness that he received, not just because Prabhupada was a great person. I'm sure that was part of, I met a great person. But Prabhupada was very kind to him. There's so many examples of that. Gopal and Sally Agarwal. They felt, Prabhupada was so kind. Prabhupada was so kind. They were kind to him. They had done some service. They had arranged for his tourist visa by extending a letter. That's how he got to America. So Prabhupada was indebted to them, and he was very kind to them. He never, as Sally said, he never pushed. He never made me feel uncomfortable, but my standards were not his. He just gave kindness. So that's a permanent asset. Same for us, just, chanting we're not meek and humble, or chanting we're pushing our false ego agenda, or whatever it is, less than the standard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was introducing to Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was certainly a devotee, very dear to Lord Chaitanya, devotee, but he's giving him instructions to go beyond. That's the intent of this. The power of humility allows us to go beyond thinking of ourselves as the doer, thinking of ourselves as getting things done. We engage in devotional service in this namaha mood, in the mood of no false ego, just dependent upon Krishna. Very nice. One of the other verses that we discussed yesterday, so I'm deliberately emphasizing these again. Adhyatmika anushravanam. Hearing spiritual matters. Nama sankirtanat. A devotee should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name. His behavior should be always straightforward and simple. This is arjavam. It's a quality of a brahmana, and it's a quality that a Vaishnava brahmana or Vaishnava devotee should also have. Very straightforward. Not. Jiva Goswami explains when we're covered by anarthas, one of the first things that appears, Jiva Goswami's explanation is, we become crooked, like a hook. To clear that away, just at least cultivate being straightforward. Sanatana Goswami, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes this as the foremost quality of a brahmana is very straightforward. Very important. And there's an obstacle, that's our anarthas. So our anarthas are, we hide what our real position is, and we present ourselves as something else. Cheating propensity. So we speak things and do things, and behind there's something else going on, an agenda or something other than. And so Lord Chaitanya's advice is give up this other stuff. His powerful statements, it's like boom, give up this other idea, and just take to devotional service, hearing and chanting, and hearing and chanting without false ego, namaha, with meekness and humility. So when one understands the greatness of Krishna, it helps one to be humble. Besides, just like feeling bad. That's what's being recommended by Scripture or any spiritual teaching or teacher. It's not feel bad. That's mode of ignorance. That was Lord Chaitanya was admonishing him, don't do like that. But rather recognize your position in relation to Krishna. We had this nice discussion this past weekend in New Jersey of Lord Brahma's prayers. And boy, did he get a wow experience. When he came back to where the calves and the cowherd boys were, he saw they were still there, although he had put them. So he went to see, and they were still where he put them. So he came back, and he saw they were there, like duplicates, because they were direct expansions of Krishna. And then, Krishna just made this amazing display of, while the cowherd boys and the calves were there, simultaneously forms of Vishnu or Narayana appeared. And not only Narayana, but all of the potencies of Narayana, and the long list. And there they were glorifying Narayana, like this big cacophony of sound. Because how many calves and how many cowherd boys and that many Narayanas and calves and cowherd boys and so many potencies all having a great time glorifying Lord Narayana. We say in ISKCON vernacular, he was blown away. And he's Lord Brahma. And how much intricacy does Lord Brahma have knowledge of? I mean, it's mind-boggling what Lord Brahma already knows. Like Prabhupada would say to the scientist, you say you can create life, I challenge you, make one mosquito. He's little, make one mosquito. And this one mosquito, he can fly up or down or forwards or backwards in any direction. And he can reproduce himself. Make one of those. I challenge you. Or, okay, we're studying microbiology. We're learning the strands of RNA and DNA, and we're gonna make a mosquito. Well, who's the intelligence behind the first RNA, DNA? Lord Brahma already got it figured out. And where did Brahma get that knowledge? From Krishna. Where's Gajendra Moksha here? Huh? In the kitchen. So Gajendra Moksha is a professor at Northwestern University, not in microbiology, but nanotechnology. You go, down even more in detail. I don't even know what it is, but all I know is it's more than micro. It's nano. And he's very revered in his field. He goes here and there in different conferences and makes presentations on what most people don't even know what the word means. But where did that come from? So that's one scientist in a whole field of science, and Lord Brahma knows it already. He's the original professor of nanotechnology. But what he saw in front of him blew him away. Then not only that, that Krishna is the source of all that, it just disappeared. Poof. And then even the cowherd boys, what to speak of the forms of Lord Vishnu and all the energies of Vishnu or Narayana, they just disappeared. Then it says, no detail, he saw the universe that he had created, that Krishna was the source of. And then it's just Krishna looking at him. Krishna didn't say anything through all of this. Krishna's just right in front of him with unblinking eyes, with his left hand extended with a lump of yogurt and fruit in his hand. Brahma was humbled. He fell before Krishna like a rod again and again and again and again, with tears of joy streaming from his eyes, moistening Krishna's feet. The mercy that Krishna had shown him. So then, in this series of prayers, there's even just a lesha. So Krishna may or may not display his majesty as he did with Brahma. Or like yesterday evening, this nice devotee that had this wonderful experience of chanting, and he was floating. He had just this wonderful, wonderful feeling. Just from hearing and taking seriously what he had heard and trying to apply what he had heard with some faith and humility. One of the interesting things was it happened when he gave up, he at least for a moment, let go of the notion of being, the doer, just took the position of being, Krishna is my shelter. And then when he was relishing, oh, this is really nice, it went away. He got into false ego again. Oh, I'm the doer. I'm the enjoyer of what I do. And he let go of that. And it happened again. So Krishna may or may not give us, pull back the curtain and show us, here I am, and then close the curtain again. He may or may not do that. When he does that, that's nice. And when he doesn't do that, that's nice. Because he's nice. We can always expect, this is again part of Lord Brahma's prayers, one thing we can expect, Krishna's kindness, Krishna's mercy. And we're most eligible, materially it's a contradiction. We're most eligible when we're meek and humble, because it's free from false ego, and then there's the eagerness to take shelter. Not because, I'm desperate, I'm freaked out, what am I going to do? But just because it's who I am. As one advances in Krishna consciousness, that becomes stronger, or it's a litmus test of, am I advancing in Krishna consciousness? Is that becoming freed? We can strive for it. That's also nice. And if you strive for it, don't protest when Krishna starts creating situations where it humbles you. Don't complain. Oh, Krishna, you took away something. Or you put me in this awkward situation. It'll happen. And it may be like this, and it may be like that. Like that, another one of Brahma. I learned a lot from speaking about Lord Brahma's prayers. They're very beautiful. Like the father who loves his son, Krishna is like that. Sometimes he gives, this is Vishwanath, sometimes he gives sweet milk. Sometimes he gives bitter neem. Because there's some need for the bitter neem, not for the sweet milk, so he gives the bitter neem. Or sometimes he'll embrace his son fondly, and sometimes he'll reprimand and admonish his son, both from a position of love. So Krishna's like that. He's loving. It's mercy or mercy or mercy or mercy. We can expect mercy. And if we're meek and humble, we'll be expecting mercy. And when that comes, like life comes your way, you're walking down the path of life, and here it comes, you'll see Krishna there. Krishna's mercy. It doesn't sanction foolish action. There's this classic story from the early days of the Hare Krishna movement. Some temple did something very foolish, and they had a big problem, and one of the devotees said, oh, Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada said, don't blame your foolishness on Krishna. That's foolishness. But in contrast, we're imperfect beings. So like these nice verses quoted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and teachings, it's not, the birth and our qualification of those material things, it's not qualification, disqualification, high birth or low birth. It's the sincerity that we have to be free from false ego, free from that encumbrance of thinking myself the doer, thinking myself of the creator of the results of my activity, and then therefore the enjoyer, and that whole program, even in devotional service. Our teachings are filled with encouragement of this taking shelter in a humble mood. Certainly, perhaps foremost, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshastakam. There's another very nice one. I'll just make this reference and end. From the when we have yagyas and the devotees are throwing grain into the fire, I've been meaning to find out. I haven't found out. From those that do yagyas, when we say, what do we say? Swaha. So at least what I've read so far, it means something, which I can't say what it means when we're doing that. You're offering oblations into the fire, which is the mouth of Vishnu. So Swaha, please accept these offerings. More specifically, however, Swa indicates that syllable, Swa, is oneself. Well, I'm going to read a little section from Brahma Samhita Purport, Bhaktisiddhanta. He uses the word Kshetragya. Those of you that know Bhagavad Gita, you know what Kshetragya means. It's chapter 13. The knower of the field. Kshetragya. That's the soul. So Sva, Bhaktisiddhanta says, means that. Kshetragya, that's, us. There's the field of activity, the body, and then there's the knower of the field of activity. Kshetra and Kshetragya. Difference between matter and spirit. The spirit side, that's us. Sva, ha. So, in really simple language, it means submission. Sva, ha. When you chant your Gayatri mantras, think about that. Sva, ha. Otherwise, you just say the sound and go on to the next thing. But I'm encouraging this principle of, if you notice, it's a repeated principle, directing conscious awareness to sound vibration, descending sound vibration. Connect with the name. Connect with the instruction to Sva, ha, or Na-ma, Namaha. Get off the mechanical platform and move into the conscious platform, the bhakti platform. Because bhakti can dissolve the encumbrances that keep us blocked from Krishna. I think we want that, we just don't want it enough. Our intention is not strong enough. Our attachment is stronger than our intention. But there's a means. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving Sanatana Goswami the means. And very kindly Krishna Das Kaviraj is giving us that instruction. And so let me just read Bhaktisiddhanta. He says it twice, slightly different, but it's the same thing, just different language. The word sva indicates kshetragya, namely, one who is conversant with one's inner self, the soul. And ha indicates the transcendental nature, you can say, of the soul. There's the soul and the transcendental nature of the soul. The transcendental nature of the soul is, I'm in this position of submission. No false ego. Namaha, Swaha. Now, in connection with one of the Gayatri mantras that's mentioned, this you can look it up later if you like, it's text 3. He just expands the same thing, but just a little expanded. He gives some Sanskrit language. Shuddha jivasya chid jnana swarup. What does that mean? This is the swa. The true nature of the spiritual knowledge of the unalloyed individual soul. Bhaktisiddhanta's language is very precise. So there's the individual soul and there's the spiritual knowledge. The chit, because it's in the Sanskrit, the cognitive faculty, spiritually cognitive faculty of the individual soul. And the true nature of that is swa, or swa. And then the ha, it gets, again, longer language, a little esoteric. Chit prakritir, that's the soul, chit prakriti. Artat, Krishna seva swabhava. The true nature of transcendental service to Krishna is this. You ready for what the true nature of transcendental service to Krishna is? The esoteric relation is established on the awakening of one's pure cognition. So from the swa comes the ha. We become aware of who we are and our spiritual identity. We, beyond just, I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul, but swa ha. But submission is necessary to be in that connected relationship with Krishna. That's our teaching. That's our cultivation. It's the meaning of what we're doing, and it's built right within our mantras. And so to make it really easy, we have the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Anyone can chant. Anyone can benefit. Some people think it's just a musical performance. They get benefit also. But those that are wishing, as serious devotees, to not just have a musical performance or a meditation where we feel relaxed, but it's stress reduced. It does those things. But to go more deeply in our relationship with Krishna, considering more carefully what it is that we're doing and how to do what we're doing. Again, just the principle of extending. The soul is both conscious and consciousness. You've heard that before. Yes? Soul is conscious and consciousness. The example given is like a fire or a flame. It has light. But that fire or flame, it illumines other things also. It's light and luminous. Conscious, simile, and consciousness. Consciousness can extend to other things. This cognitive faculty that he's speaking about, Bhaktisiddhanta is speaking about. So we take that consciousness and extend it, touch the holy name. And that's our primary means of all the processes of devotional service. Most important. And to do it in the humble mood it will help to not just mechanically chant, but go beyond the mechanical chanting into the conscious chanting and touching and receiving, because it's not a one-way thing, it's a two-way thing. Krishna sees that, Krishna reciprocates, and something happens. The contaminations become more powerfully removed than the mechanical kind. So many things to say on that one, but that's the message I wanted. The power of humility, the power of bhakti, the power of humility in the realm of devotional service. Any comments or questions? Yes, Madhu Mangal.
Maharaj, in order to be straightforward, I feel that the reservation is a hesitancy based on, it could be some past experiences or fear. How can one overcome those?
Gradually. In the association, exactly as we read yesterday evening, but as experience tells us, in the association of persons who are trustworthy. Now, when one is fearful, it's a little difficult to consider somebody trustworthy. So there's hesitancy. One of the first, this is, one of Jai Jagannath's sayings from 2 years ago. One of the best things about creating that confidence is being oneself trustworthy. Right? If you want to have a relationship with someone of trust, then be trustworthy. It starts within, Bhaktisiddhanta's teaching. So you take the resources that are available, abundantly available, and you apply them with this focus. I want to be trustworthy. Then what does that mean, and how do I do that? And you go on the trustworthy project. And then it helps to extend the hearing and chanting process has the potency to make one trustworthy and then allow exchanges of unfiltered or whatever it is, relationships of service. It's gradually. The seed of bhakti is nourished by the hearing and chanting process, and it all starts there. What do you think? It's okay? Okay. So, question over here?
Hare Krishna. The question arises from the story you told about the gentleman who met Prabhupada and how he didn't, take his shelter. So the question is, how do we know that we're taking mercy for granted, or like not appreciating the gifts that we're receiving and accepting them? And then the second part is, instead of going on like a guilt trip or the feeling bad, which is ignorance, what can we do when we realize that, I missed this and I'm not appreciating what this person is so kindly giving and really giving?
Well, that one's easier.
Okay.
Plus, you said it second, so my thoughts are going there. The 4 R's. This is a Jayadvaita Swami Purana. Recognition, regret, rectification, reinstatement. We heard that one before. So when you recognize, then that recognition is the beginning, and then regret is next. And don't just dwell in regret, because otherwise something happens. The mode of ignorance happens, and one falls into lamentation and weakness. Bhakti gets more covered rather than, the impetus for more bhakti. So the rectification is, going forward, I'm going to strive to be, in the moment, more appreciative. And when I catch myself that I haven't been appreciative, I can't go back and redo the past, but I can go forward and live the forward, recognizing this will benefit me, and then catch it as quickly as you can. Whenever it happens again, it happens again. Go forward with, now this little light went on. Who knows how long in this lifetime, previous lifetime, the light didn't go on. Now the light went on, and now I'm going to operate with light. Go towards light. And, yeah. So the first one, how do we recognize when we're doing what again?
Or not properly accepting or receiving the mercy, or somebody's giving us the
Not
gift.
properly accepting which?
The mercy or the gift that we're being given.
Two things come to mind right away. One is the experience of feelings of gratitude, which then the exhibition of those feelings of gratitude as they mature. I wish to do something out of an expression of that gratitude. And the expression of gratitude can be as simple as saying, thank you, but better is the carrying out that gift, applying that gift that one has received in one's life in a way that will benefit. Just like, a teacher is most happy when not just the student gets an A in the exam, but the student applies that which they've learned, especially when it's practical stuff, when real education, or a parent in interacting with a child, or whatever the situation is. That not just the child says thank you, but the child, the values that are received from the parent, or in this, whatever the demonstration of receiving something is from, you apply it. Like Prabhupada's statement of this is, in relation to Gandhi, in the Gandhi Memorial lecture or paper that he delivered, the way to honor a great person is not by naming a street after him, or naming a building after him, or making a statue of that person. The real way to honor a great person is from those teachings and the values that that great person held, establish that in this world as a service to honor that great person. And he then spoke of Gandhi was a lover of Gita, and so he then started speaking about Gita Nagari, a village where the Gita is the way of life. So you manifest that teaching in the world, starting with one's own heart. And then in turn, that same valuable thing received, making it available, as one is capable of doing so. At least those that you associate with in close quarters, and beyond that also. Second, besides gratitude and the manifestation of gratitude, is remembrance of Krishna, or even more specifically, attraction for Krishna. There's different forms of Krishna. There's his deity form, and the name form, and the deity form. So supposing you're just like you've gotten a particular instruction to, now that you have second initiation, to take up deity worship. So you take that instruction to heart, and then a benefit will come as some affinity for the deity form of the Lord, just by taking that instruction as a kindness that's been given to you. There's an example, practically. The sign is that you, with gratitude you do, and the affinity for transcendence grows. The form of the Lord, the name of the Lord, the message of the Lord's devotees, the bhakti itself. Yeah? Attraction. Back there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for giving class. This morning you spoke of bhakti having the potency to dissolve the encumbrances between us and Krishna. And last night, in response to Makunda's question, you said that we can't overcome an anartha without first recognizing it's there. So is it that bhakti reveals our anarthas to us?
Yes. Specific to the verse spoken by Kapila Dev, within the sound vibrations that one hears, there's the potency to reveal. And because those sound vibrations, they awaken bhakti, they have the potency to awaken bhakti, which then in turn allows us to receive that sound vibration so we can see what we need to see. We can see reality. I'm making emphasis on the sound vibration part, which leads to bhakti when received properly, as opposed to specifically, certainly bhakti can illumine, but it's the sound vibration that starts it. Is that all right? You have something further on this? You're good. Okay. Mahamantra, you have something? Over here.
Guru Maharaj, the purpose of accessing the holy name,
The purpose of what?
accessing or chanting the holy name, is altogether different from what I'm trying to say is like the anartha nivrutti and all
I
other.
hope you know what you mean to say, because we haven't understood what you mean to say yet. Be very clear and concise, please.
Yes. The purpose of chanting is pleasing Krishna. But at the same time, I have to focus on anartha nivrutti also.
Do you?
But it's a byproduct.
Yeah.
So, how do I remove that from my consciousness while chanting, and fix only towards pleasing Krishna?
Well, gradually. That's how. You go. Your focus goes, but it's kind of blurry. You just keep focusing. In other words, take the microphone from him, please. In other words, as you attempt, not them, as you attempt to do like that, the mind is going all over the place, but you're attempting to focus on pleasing Krishna. Then there are corollary things that follow that, or augment, or assist that, or attendant to that. The concentric circle image. And those things will also be there, because the one thing is there. Stay focused. Be very clear what the objective is, and stay very focused on the objective. And then not mechanically, but then, because that won't happen unless there's bhakti, and then with bhakti, then it becomes possible. More and more. And then feelings of humility will increase more and more. And recognizing, like this discussion, recognizing what anarthas are more and more. Oh my God. But stay focused. Don't get lost in the and wishing. So the concentric circles part. Krishna, please help me with this. But you're focused. You're not off in the doership mode. With the dustpan and a broom, cleaning up your anarthas. You're relying on Krishna. You're doing service, primarily focused upon Krishna. And then you can do so many things in Krishna consciousness. Someone over here, and then we're going to end.
Hare Krishna. This is my question aims to continue on the train of the issue that Madhu Mangal raised about straightforwardness.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand what it means that one should be straightforward. It seems there's some condition to how much that should be wanted. I'm thinking of, for example, it's related to the issue in Nectar of Instruction, revealing one's mind to the devotee. Prabhupada, in the purport, he refers to it as opening or learning from an experienced devotee, opening one's mind to experienced devotee. And I'm thinking of Srila Prabhupada. I think there's some pastime where the devotees maybe leave some valuables out, and Prabhupada says, we don't want to encourage thieves. If one were straightforward, would say, here's everything I have. And then personally, I feel like I have learned over the years, at least as a person, from my spouse, if not others, better to be a bit more guarded in what I sort of reveal to others. And I feel like in the course of learning that, I've become probably incidentally or related, perhaps because of it, I've become more trustworthy, not less. So I'm wondering what it means, therefore, to be straightforward, what one should really, what one should do.
Well, brahmanas keep keys and locks. Just specifically about leaving things out and inviting thieves. Prabhupada he lived in India, so he knew you don't leave things out, or it's gone, or good chance it's gone. So that's not being crooked. It's being straightforward. You recognize nature and you honor proper conduct given human nature. And we've had discussions specific to, the degree of, just blah, you put everything on the table. I'm being straightforward, man. So to a degree, the quality of goodness says the austerity of speech is you speak the truth pleasingly. Now, in some cases, like we know from Scripture, here's two examples that come to mind. When Vidura came to meet with Uddhava, Vidura didn't disclose what he already knew, that Krishna and the Yadu dynasty, all the members of the Yadu dynasty were gone. He didn't disclose that. Because the consideration was it would hurt Uddhava too much. So he didn't disclose that. So we consider, if we do something, how's it going to impact? Not for the purpose of, being guarded and sneaky and crooked, but you consider the effective impact on others when you say something. So saying something or not saying something, or saying something in a pleasing manner without necessarily saying everything. It's not that's different than diplomacy. It's crookedness. It's considering the affection of another. So another is when Arjuna left to go with Krishna back to Dwarka, they didn't want to say why they're sending Arjuna, but they felt it because they're so connected with Krishna. And Krishna's going to leave. And they saw all the omens that Krishna had left. And when Arjuna came back, Yudhishthira didn't want to say, has Krishna gone? And other examples. Because it's something that's going to hurt another person, you're careful. You don't want to be crooked. You don't want to be hurtful. So, where do you draw the line is kind of the question. It takes some refinement of consciousness in those kinds of situations. And a lot depends on the relationship with those individuals, too. So the spirit should be elevation of consciousness, helping persons come closer to Krishna consciousness. And each one of us has a different capacity and a different approach to how to doing that, and that's also permitted. It's perfectly natural, just the way things are. Okay, we'll end there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, everyone. There is breakfast, prasadam downstairs. So please have your breakfast and come back at 10 o'clock. We start with a beautiful slideshow for Vyasa Puja, and 10:15 is when officially things start. So 10 o'clock is the slideshow. So please come back and join us for that. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay.